The 2026 FIFA World Cup hasn't kicked off yet, and already it's coming apart at the seams. 3 days before the opening match, FIFA was forced to strip one of its own national referees from the tournament. Not for misconduct, not for a failed fitness test, because the United States government decided he wasn't allowed in the country. His name is Omar Abdulkadir Artan. He is Somalia's first ever national referee to qualify for a World Cup finals. He is the 2025 Confederation of African Football Men's Referee of the Year. He was traveling on a diplomatic passport, issued specifically by his government to ease his travel after earlier visa complications. He landed at Miami International Airport on Saturday with valid documents, and he was turned around and sent back to Istanbul. Gone, just like that. Here's the real question this raises. FIFA awarded the 2026 World Cup to a three-nation bid, the United States, Canada, and Mexico, that was partly sold on the idea of inclusivity. The largest World Cup in history, 48 teams, 104 matches, the most nations ever represented at a single tournament. The pitch was global football, reaching its widest possible audience. And then the host nation began applying entry restrictions that directly contradict that premise. Here's what makes this story more than just a travel dispute. Every single one of the 52 national referees and 88 assistant referees appointed for this tournament is required to be physically present at a centralized training hub in Miami, Florida. That was the structure FIFA's referees, Chief Pierluigi Collina, built for this tournament. One base of operations on American soil. Mandatory attendance for all officials. Which means the moment Omar Artan was denied entry to the United States, his entire participation became impossible. There was no workaround. He couldn't fly to Canada and only cover matches in Toronto or Vancouver. He couldn't be reassigned to Mexico City fixtures. The system FIFA designed left zero margin for a scenario exactly like this one. And when FIFA realized that, they had no answer. Their statement was essentially a shrug. FIFA is not involved in host country immigration processes. A host government ultimately determines who receives a visa and who is admitted into their country. That's the world governing body of the sport, with 4 billion followers, publicly admitting it has no leverage over which officials are allowed to do their jobs at its own flagship event. The official reason from U.S. Customs and Border Protection, quote, vetting concerns. That's it. No elaboration, no specifics, just vetting concerns. What we do know, and what CBP did not say but everyone understands, is that Somalia is currently on the Trump administration's travel ban list. It's one of a block of nations whose citizens face restricted or denied entry into the United States as part of a sweeping immigration crackdown. Andrew Giuliani, who leads the White House task force on the World Cup, was asked directly about the Artan case on the BBC. His response: "While I can't go into the dialogue on that, I can tell you it was the right decision by Customs and Border Patrol, and I support that decision. Derogatory information, meaning there may be a specific file, meaning this may not have been a blanket policy catch, we don't know." The government isn't saying. What we do know is that a national referee who earned his place at this tournament through merit, through years of work inside the Somali Football League, through continental competitions, through a CAF award, recognizing him as the continent's best, was erased from the tournament 3 days before it begins, with no public justification beyond 2 words. Artan's statement, released through Reuters, was composed. Almost deliberately so. Despite the circumstances, I am in a positive mood, and I am focused on the next challenges in my refereeing career. Read that again slowly. That is a man choosing his words with surgical care because he knows exactly how much scrutiny is on him. He thanked FIFA, he thanked CAF, he wished his colleagues well. There was not a single sentence that could be used against him. Somalia's senior advisor to the Ministry of Youth and Sports, Siase Aden Abshir, a former national team captain, was less restrained. Denying him entry to the United States and preventing him from officiating scheduled matches harms not only him personally, but also undermines football's commitment to fairness, merit, and the spirit of fair play. Somalia's president Hassan Sheikh Mohamud had called Artan a symbol of inspiration for the new generation of Somalis when he was first selected back in April. The country's football federation has formally contacted FIFA, requesting urgent clarification. They're not going to get one, not the kind that matters. But here's the dimension of this story that the initial headlines missed. The Artan case is not an isolated incident. It is part of a pattern that has been building for weeks, and it represents something structurally broken about how this tournament was constructed. Iran's Football Federation announced this week that their ticket allocation for the group stage has been revoked. Iranian fans who bought tickets, who planned flights, booked hotels, made arrangements, are now being told they may not be able to attend. Players have been denied entry, journalists covering the tournament have been refused, officials turned away, and the World Cup hasn't even started. Ian Wright put it more bluntly than any analyst has. Every few hours it's another story: fans denied, player denied, officials denied, journalists denied, now refs. The most expensive tickets ever, expensive accommodation, transport through the roof. Is this how the host behaved for the greatest game, the greatest tournament in the world? He called it a World Cup of chaos. And the more you look at the structural decisions that got us here, the harder it is to argue with him. What happens next is worth watching closely. Does FIFA restructure anything? Does this force a conversation about whether centralized training hubs should ever be placed in a single jurisdiction with travel restrictions? Does the international football community push back loudly enough that the US government offers any transparency about what vetting concerns actually means? Or does the tournament simply move forward? Billions of dollars, billions of viewers, and Omar Artan becomes a footnote? Subscribe to stay up to date with the 2026 World Cup.